What I like best about the way David Cronenberg makes films is that he has this visual style that is classic simplicity. There's not a lot of sets, not a lot of running around. There's usually just a few characters, and he marries that with like out there, disturbing, strange ideas. And Scanners is no exception. It's about it's about a psychic that gets hired by not hired but sort of shanghaied by a shady corporation into infiltrating an underground group of psychics and the sort of strange little adventure he has. I like about the way Scanners handles its telepathics is that they're not force users, you know? Nobody puts their fingers on their head and does this kind of thing, or they don't go like this. Using their psychic powers is painful. It can cause headaches and nausea and nosebleeds and all sorts of stuff like that. So whenever somebody's going to use their psychic powers, their head just kind of shakes a little bit like they're in pain and their eyes bug out. And the whole movie is in the face of the actors. And for the most part, they all nailed it really well. The primary villain is played by Michael Ironside, a young Michael Ironside, who like kind of gave me some like Jack Nicholson vibes, and I've never seen that out of him because I don't think I've ever actually seen Michael Ironside play a villain. So that was really nice to see because I like him a lot. I came to know him through the Splinter Cell video game series, and like he's got that amazing voice, you know. So it was really interesting to see him back in '81 do his thing, and his like facial expressions are amazing in this movie. He's like he does all sorts of like crazy stuff. He just twists his face around and looks like a psychic megalomaniac. It's fantastic, and it's not like all Professor Xy or anything like that. It's just this sort of unique style of doing telepathy, which I really like because it's all internal. So much of Cronenberg stuff is internal, like with Shivers and like the sex parasites that make people want to do it, and then The Fly, where it's Brundle just changing on the inside until the very end. And this is like that too. It's all the really strange stuff is inside people, and I think that fits in really well with his simplistic style because you're not having to rely on like crazy special effects. Not that his movie doesn't have crazy special effects, but like when they do show up, it's more of a payoff, you know. And Scanners is bookended by a couple of really spectacular special effects scenes. I'm sure everybody's seen the GIF floating around the internet or WebM or whatever of the bald guy with the mustache and his head exploding, and that comes from Scanners in the beginning of this film, and it's an amazing special effects shot. Like I rewound it a couple of times and watched it, and at the end there's like this duel between these two guys, and they're both trying to kill one another with their psychic powers, and they're causing the veins on each other's bodies to like swell up and like burst and like squirt out like in the Addams Family almost. Michael Ironside, like his face just gets all covered with these spider web of these horrible veins that just puff up and start squirting, and it looks so natural. I don't know how they did this makeup, but it was Dick Smith, the same guy from The Exorcist, so you know it's fucking good. But it looks just so natural when those veins would puff up on the actor's skin. It was really, really wild. There's a couple of like dude on fire shots, stuff like that. But those big special effects things at the end of the movie really frame it nicely. The thing that I really like about Cronenberg's films is that they ostensibly take place in our world. You know, they just happen under the surface. Even like a movie like Existenz, which I think out of all of his films that I've seen has the most like crazy set changes and running around and special effects. All that is inside of a virtual space, so it could possibly take place in the real world. And that's true of Scanners as well. There's themes of corporate mistrust and scientific irresponsibility, stuff that like we deal with in our lives, even now, in 2016, like that Shkreli guy that jacked up the prices of all those medicines. Only in here it's taken to a more fantastical level. I mentioned X-Men earlier, and I couldn't help from drawing parallels between this and that about telepathy, because that's like a big deal in the X-Men series, and like the Marvel universe in general, is the power of telepaths and stuff like that. And the story of Scanners about psychics forming their own underground society and the clashing with normal humans reminded me a lot of a more realistic take on that kind of subject, about how people would react to superhumans that weren't any different looking than themselves. And I imagine a lot of it would have to do with shady corporations and amoral scientists, that sort of thing. Overall, Scanners is a really cool movie that takes kind of a ridiculous idea like telepathy seriously and in a mature way, but it still has the payoff of the blood and guts and stuff.